What's going on, everyone? First of all, thank you for watching. In today's video, we're going to try and tackle some of the frequently asked questions that the community seems to have about Dune Awakening. We're going to use dev commentary from the Discord and a few other sources to answer some of these questions as best we can. Noted, I don't have citations for everything, so if you are skeptical about some of the answers, perfectly understandable. And with that in mind, this is by no means a comprehensive list of all the questions that players have. These are just some of the most frequently asked questions that I see around the community, so we're going to do our best to answer those with the information that we have been given. Without further ado, let's get on into it. Let's start off with the most asked question in Dune Awakening history: can we ride sandworms? Everyone is super hopeful about this feature, but I got sour news for you. It's going to be a big no. But it is a no with an asterisk. Allow me to explain. As per the devs, worm riding is not something we will have at launch, no, but we want to add it after launch. They mentioned talking about it on a different account, but they say that they wouldn't mention that on the official account considering we won't have worm riding at launch and don't want to give the wrong expectations. One day I will tell you the story of why we don't have sandworm riding for launch. It's apparent that the ability to pilot a giant godlike worm in a game with hundreds of people on a server at any given time doesn't seem to bode well for an MMO. Moving on. Can we sandwalk? A highly requested feature from the players. It's going to be a no for you, pals. Sorry to say. Not going to be available at launch. The devs had implemented a version of sandwalking early on, but it was just not going to work out. I think I also said in my original interview about it that it might come back if we can find the right way to do it. For the record, I also think the player wouldn't know how to sandwalk without contact with the Fremen. I'm going to say it again because we had a chat at some point about that yesterday. It was misinterpreted. Sandwalking is not in the game. We don't have sandwalking in the game. We had it at some point and we removed it simply. It was bad. Walking without rhythm is something that requires a lot of skill and Fremen training, which we as players just will not have. A lot of people expect to have this in the game in some form, but let's be honest, it's probably going to end up looking like this. And if I'm being honest, I really just want this in the game in some way. I mean, look at that. That's awesome. Base rating. Can we raid bases in this game? That's going to be another no with an asterisk. We do have some mixed information about this. The general consensus is that this game is not about kicking each other's sandcastles down. Devs go on to say, offline base raiding, keep your shields up, you'll be fine, except if you're somewhere sandstorms can impact shields. Feels like I've said this before, but if not, big debate about to start. The focus of this game is not base raiding. You could instead focus your strategy on base raiding, but you will be getting scraps. Petty base raids won't be a main mechanic. Sure, you will be able to do some of that. We have mentioned a few times our game will try to deter people from doing base raiding anyways. So it's not going to be a major focus, but there will be the ability. Let's hear more from developer Ula Andres.
For base raiding and base combat, we're not doing much at launch. We're not talking much about that yet. It's something that we'll maybe talk more about later at some point. Base raiding isn't a feature that we're promoting or doing anything about at launch.
Okay.
The term at launch, players, consumables and food, something that I'm actually personally really hoping for. There is a yes. It's going to be sort of a yes asterisk, as cooking and culinary recipes don't seem to be a big part of the survival mechanic. Eating won't be a part of the survival mechanics, only dehydration and sunstroke and the whole sandworm storms Arrakis wants to kill you thing. So that's going to be the focus for the survival. They go on to state, no food in DA, water and spice is all you need. But this was in an earlier comment, and it seems that the information has shifted a little bit. Personally, I just want to get my hands on whatever Baron is eating in this scene. It looks fantastic. Will we have pets in the game? Everybody wants a little Muad'Dib. The answer is no. Ula goes on to explain.
You will not be able to have that for launch. Who knows, in the future we might introduce some stuff. It's going to be a live game, of course.
Ula loves saying the term at launch. In the meantime, I mean, do donkeys or whale skeletons count as pets? I don't know. I'm seriously asking, do they? Is melee combat ready? This is an easy one. The answer is no. Melee went through a recent rework and it is still in the iterative stages. They had to scrap their earlier version that they had going, and they only just recently put a new version of this into the game. As I stated in whatever other message somewhere, we completely revamped the melee like 100% after beta feedback, and it's still super new, and we have a lot of more work to do, but I strongly believe we are in the right direction. They go on to say, I would also argue that we could have captured melee from angles that were basically lying about how it plays. I don't think we should be anything but honest about the way the game plays. Remember, melee is also still in heavy development, whereas shooting is in the polish phase. I will get marketing to do more deep dives on the combat, and we will definitely show a lot more melee. The fact that our newest major iteration was released 2 weeks ago made it tough for them to capture in time. We're not going to deliver the best melee system in the industry. The game has too many features for us to build the entire game around one feature. We will polish and improve what is there. But also to set expectations regarding animations. They will not get to the level of a narrative, linear, single-player game. At the end of the day, DA will try to handle hundreds of players in the same area, so ultimately fidelity will need to be sacrificed for performance. Also melee, we mentioned it a few times over the past few months. Combat in general was waiting for an overhaul which happened just recently. What is seen in the videos is the first iteration of that overhaul, which is what players are testing now in the closed beta. But yeah, as iterations go, first one sets the basics in place, and subsequent ones polish and perk that up to what is considered complete. So everyone being a little feisty about the melee, we just have to wait and see how it turns out. I have faith, you should too. Will it be full loot? A lot of players are going to be sour about this, but no, the game will not feature full loot. What we do know will be lootable from downed players is water, Solari, spice, building materials, potentially schematics that people have in their inventory. But as the devs say, we have something way more important than gear in our game, spice, and you lose that on death. To me, this makes a lot of sense. Something that plagues modern MMOs is the high-level players ganking and taking loot from low-level players who barely have their feet established in the game. This does two things. It's actually going to help promote trade between players, and it will dissuade griefing. People will be more encouraged to trade goods and things that they have crafted, and nobody will be trying to just kill you to take your stuff. So this is a good thing. Lazguns plus shields equals boom. The interaction between shields and Lazguns in Dune is pretty famous for the nuclear reaction that it sets off. In Dune Awakening, however, we are not going to be seeing this happen. Lasers won't be able to be used against shields. Gameplay-wise, having nukes every 10 seconds would not be super fun. In our story, there's an incident with a Lazgun and a shield that occurred. From that point on, all Chom imported Lazguns to the planet now have a safety built in so they cannot target a shield. Some other notes about shields. Holding left mouse button and you will do a thrust, slow to pass through the shield, then final thrust. Animation looks cool when considered from that perspective. Melee attacks also don't auto-pierce shields, though we do have a concept of demi-shields in the game. Some enemies already use them for front half protection. This is what I believe we see the enemies in the Eco Lab scenes using for their protection. How can we get spice? The answer? Ways. There's going to be several methods of obtaining spice in the game. Obviously, the most common is going to be through the spice blows in the PvP zone. However, if you're a solo PvE player, you might be wondering if you're going to be able to get spice as well. Short answer is yes, but in fairly low quantities. We want players to get spice by harvesting it on spice blows, and at the same time having to deal with the worm. So you will have access to it. And yes, spice is one of the things that you will always drop on death, so keep that in mind. You can play solo, it's just more advantageous to play in a group. Also, we won't have the movie Spice Harvester or the movie Carryall in the game at launch. Now again, we see that phrase at launch, so fingers crossed. How do taxes work? Answer: I do not know. In real life, I don't know how taxes work. In Dune Awakening though, it is pretty simple. You place down a sub-fief terminal, you're going to have to pay for it. On keeping a base safe, it depends on where you build it, if you keep your shields fueled, and whether you pay your spice taxes. It is possible, but not probable if you make smart choices, in reference to base rating. Hey, if you want a piece of Arrakis, you pay the tax. As for how taxes will exactly operate when the game launches, that I can't give much detail as right now, it is in the process of being revamped itself. You really want to mess with the Sardaukar though? You really want to mess with this guy? Seriously? Keep in mind, your fief and DA requires paying taxes to the Emperor. The bigger your land claim and base, the more you have to pay. Structures will need to be maintained against the environment and attacks, as well as needing to pay taxes for it. The rest of the areas, we don't have plans currently to wipe regularly. If you want to build your peaceful spot somewhere else, do so. Console beta? This one's a speculative answer, but it's more like a no. I can tell you that the console betas are still far on the horizon. Right now we're focusing on PC exclusively to get the game done, then we'll start focusing on optimizing for each platform. Let me set expectations though. No console beta announcement. This was in reference to just before Gamescom. Since then we have gotten a release date, which we know is spring 2025. For now we don't even have an estimate for console beta. We're focusing on PC as main platform for now. Once we have all the foundations there and we're at a good spot in terms of content, performance, and so on, we will start focusing more on consoles. For now, the beta is PC only, and this was back in July, so more news to follow. How does the world structure work? Oh boy, let's try and run this one down. When players start to play Dune Awakening, they choose a world. It is almost like choosing a server in an MMORPG, but it's a large infrastructure of connected servers. The idea is that as a player, you choose, you join, you start in a map, and from there, your experience should be relatively seamless in terms of how you explore and feel the world. As explained, we start in the Haga Basin, which is a giant starting area, and then eventually we branch out to these social hubs like Arakeen and Harko Village and the Deep Desert, which is the giant PvP endgame area, using the overland map mechanic with the Ornithopter as your mode of transport. In my demo, the team promised 2 maps to start with and more to come. We got to peek at the Deep Desert where most of the conflict will happen and hundreds of players will focus on collecting resources and fighting over key locations each week. There's the Haga Basin, which will have a 40+ player cap, and 2 social hub locations, Arakeen and the Harko Village. There is, of course, a plan to add even more to the world as time goes by. Starting in the Haga Basin, and we have plenty of Arrakis to go off of from there. So do expect to see these question marks on the map get filled in as the months develop post-launch. Speaking of the Haga Basin, I can select which Haga Basin I'm starting with, so if we start in Dune Awakening at the same time, I can make sure that we're spawning in the same. Not only that, our server browser also tells you where your friends are playing. Once you're ready to leave the Haga Basin, you craft yourself an Ornithopter and you fly out into what's called the Overland Map, which allows you to see all the locations. As a dev further clarifies, 40+-ish in the Haga Basin, 100 per server in the Deep Desert for a total of around 900+. Solo is absolutely viable for most of the game. We've seen beta players doing spice ops by themselves in the Deep Desert too. It requires quite the work, but it is doable. So there you have it. Private server hosting. The answer is actually yes, asterisk. They have said they do intend to have this be a feature post-launch at some point. As I mentioned, private servers is still under discussion. However, I should be clear, it is unlikely we will provide a server client to players to run on their own hardware. So you might be able to rent private servers, but you will not be able to run your own dedicated servers. You might want a private instance of Haga Basin so you can work with your friends without needing to worry about strangers. Some people prefer to play online games only with a close group of friends. This allows that option. I'm always a fan of giving players more options, even within the limitations. And you can see below in their official statement, their plan is to allow private servers, at least for the Haga Basin map, though this might not be something they will have available for launch. Passive income / automation. This one's looking like a no, but a no with an asterisk, until we find more details, but automation is not a focus we have in the game, at least not for crafting, but one can upgrade ways to, for example, harvest water in a way that is more automated later in the game. See wind traps, for example, instead of having to hand harvest everything. That is to say, I wouldn't expect Factorio or Satisfactory levels of automation lines, though I did find this in a press release earlier in the year. Creating an efficient harvesting operation and chain of production to make it big on the exchange will grant you wealth and power, but also powerful enemies. So that could be a little bit of word soup there, but it's still up in the air as to exactly how this system will play out. How much will it cost? I don't know. Nobody knows yet. We don't have an official price. As mentioned above, we haven't decided on pricing or monetization yet. The team is currently focused on working on the game and first setting a release date. We now know the release date window is early 2025, but Joel gives us a little more clarity here in a post-Gamescom interview.
Definitely be one time at launch, and then it won't be subscription. I can say that for sure.
Right.
Good. Monetization, microtransactions, battle passes. This is looking like an I don't know, but it has been confirmed in other places. We haven't even announced what monetization model we will use for the game itself. It's safe to assume we haven't even started to think about that. Joel says again in an interview,
the rest of sort of microtransactions and things like that is still being sorted out. So we will talk more about it when we have a very clear plan there.
It's definitely going to be a fair pricing model that is, I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed.
proximity chat. This is a resounding yes. We will have fully functioning proximity voice chat.
Yes, there's proximity chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all the appropriate filters and so forth, but yes.
Developer Ula Andreas goes on to explain.
Yeah. So we have a text chat.
Yeah.
Very classic MMO, so you can talk to other people. And then we'll have an in-game voice chat as well, which is proximity-based.
So there you have it. You'll be able to yap it up with your bros. Hopping between Haga basins. This answer is sadly a solid no right now, though we might see it turn around if enough feedback is given. In an exchange between a dev and a commenter, oh yeah, there was this one thing, like if I have a friend joining the game 1 month after release, but the Haga basin I am in is full, is there a way we can change to another HB and play together? Just get them to join your Haga basin. It won't be full 100% of the time. TLDR, if you want to see and play directly with your buddies at the Haga basin, you'll have to agree on which instance you'll start at. If you want to play with them at the endgame or meet them in a social hub, as long as you're in the same cluster, it's fine. So time will tell on this one. Forced PvP. The answer is no. You're not going to be forced to do PvP engagement whatsoever. No, the game world has specific regions for PvP. While outside of these regions, you are not an eligible target nor combatant for PvP. Those who enjoy a competitive PvP environment will have their fill too, in areas where other like-minded people will compete too. But those who choose to play in PvE will be able to do so as well without the need of forced PvP. This is good news for those flower sand harvesters. Thralls and hireable NPC. This one is also a solid no, but possibly an asterisk, at least for now. We know in Conan Exiles there's a fully featured Thrall system, but in DA it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. No Thralls or followers, if that's what you mean. We have seen talk of them mention that it's not in the cards right now, but maybe possibly in the future they will consider it. Of course, everyone wants to start their own religion and have a war waged in their name, like Muad'Dib. We haven't announced any system similar to the Thrall system in Conan for Dune Awakening yet. Yet being a key word, but this was back in March, so I don't know where they stand on it right now. So don't go worshipping at the shrine of any father's skulls just yet. How will Thumpers work? The answer is, again, ways. Thumpers, from what we can tell, are going to be a worm deterrent mechanic used to redirect the worm in strategic ways that could help you get advantage over your opponents or set up a trap for them. We'll have to see how it plays out. How many great houses? This is easy. 2. There will never be more than 3 player joinable factions in the game. The 2 we will have at launch are Atreides and Harkonnen, with a 3rd hopefully coming online quickly post-launch. There are plenty of items from the other houses and factions mentioned available, but it makes no sense at all for houses that have no real presence on Arrakis to allow players to randomly join them. And speaking a little further on the way factions will work, you can't have a mixed guild that is aligned with a faction. If your guild chooses to align, all members of the wrong faction must leave. I'm not sure if this was a joke yet. Does the game wipe? Well, that's an extremely personal question, how dare you even ask it, but let's go ahead and give it a yes. I've talked about the shifting sands in the past, which wipes the map and refreshes. The Coriolis Storm is the mechanism. The Coriolis Storm outside of the shield wall will wipe bases regardless of shields. This is a deep desert mechanic used every week to completely clean the slate and reset. Deep Desert will have the regular wipes by the Coriolis Storms. This will also reveal new landmarks and resources, and hide others under the sand. The idea is to have an area with evergreen content. Guild clan sizes. The answer is 32. No, you can do whatever you want, you just won't have more than 32 official members in the guild. Blank directly said 32 right now for guild size in one interview. A lot of this conversation depends on how our optimization efforts go over the coming months. I'd love to provide more information, but some of the original bullet point questions will depend on beta testing and focus. However, here's the bad news band-aid, I'm going to rip it off now. Max guild size won't be anywhere near 300 people.
So it'll probably be in the 10s, it won't be in the 100s, we definitely won't be allowing that.
Sad to say. PC specs. Oh boy, this is my favorite one, something I know very little about. I'm just gonna say I don't know. They haven't released anything about the PC specs yet. I can confirm that we will reveal PC specs at some point, hardy har har. That being said, from what I can understand, Xbox Series is basically a PC with fixed specs. We don't have specs yet just because there's still a lot to optimize, so we don't have an accurate assessment yet, though we did get some numbers from one of the devs and their personal build. To be fair, I have a monster PC here at home, i9 14900 and a 4090 and 64 gigs of RAM. With those specs, the game runs and looks like in the trailers, guaranteed with the current build of the game. So that's at least good news. If you're at that level, then you got nothing to worry about, but it is UE5, so you might have to splurge on a new card. Crossplay. This one's a hot button question. The answer right now is I don't know. As we saw earlier, they are focusing on a PC first release. We haven't really announced crossplay in one way or the other. It's a question that will come once we start putting our hands on the console versions. Until then, the focus is delivering the PC version. So we chose to focus on delivering the game on PC first, as that is the main development platform, then work on consoles. Focus is on delivering the game on PC first on the release window that we announced. As of now, crossplay is not implemented. In our work-in-progress game with many things to be implemented. It is a topic we have not decided yet, but we know people are asking about it. That's as clear as I can make it for now. Granted, that was back in March, so we will have to see how things go. Alright, that's good. Wait a minute. Whoa, what is that? Oh, that's the rifle from the weapons video, and I couldn't figure out what that weapon was, and I didn't know if there was any other footage of it, but that's the same footage. Look, it's got the scope, and it's got like a red little thing on the attachment on the handle. That's that thing. That's the sniper rifle from the video. Look, right there. That's that one. And I couldn't tell what that was because I didn't know if there was anything else, but it's right there. Look at that. Now you get a clear shot at this weapon. Oh man, look at that. It's got leather straps. That's pretty cool looking. Oh, isn't it cool when you find something you weren't expecting? Oh boy. All right, well, I guess that wraps up all the frequently asked questions. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any other questions, drop them in the comments and we can figure them out later. That's going to do it for us here at Nism Plays. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you're liking it, leave a like and subscribe, and we will holler at you next time around. Until then, keep it locked. Peace!